بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة وسلاما دائمين متلازمين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His forgiveness, His guidance, and His assistance. And we take refuge with Him from the evil within our souls and from the consequence of our misdeeds. Whoever Allah gives guidance to, none can mislead, and whoever misleads, none can guide. I bear witness there's nothing and no one worthy of worship besides Allah alone. He has no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad, son of Abdullah, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, is His servant and messenger. I ask Allah to grant Him peace and to extend to Him our salutations on this blessed day, just as we ask Him to grant peace to His family members, companions, and everyone who follows them in goodness and shows goodwill into the meeting and the reckoning with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the 14th century, in the province known as Granada, which was the capital of Al-Andalus, there was a controversial question that was being asked or being proposed by scholars in that part of the Muslim world. It became a subject of great debate. And that particular question was whether or not a Muslim required a sheikh in order to be properly formed into a good person. The person need what is called today a murabbi, sheikh tariqa, a spiritual guide. And one of the leading scholars of the time, Imam Ibrahim ibn Musa Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi, rahmatullah alayhi, perhaps one of the most famous legal philosophers in Islamic history, he himself decided to send this question or this query to Morocco, to the leading or one of the leading Sufi scholars of the time, Shaykh al-Sufiya, known as Muhammad ibn Abbad al-Rundi al-Nafsi, who was the Imam of Jami', the central mosque of al-Qarawiyyin in Fez, Morocco. And he asked him the question, does every person need a sheikh? Ibn Abbad, in his great wisdom, he began by clarifying that there are two types of sheikhs. One he referred to as Shaykh Ta'lim, or we can say the sheikh of exponential sciences or exponential knowledge, the sheikh of outward knowledge. And then there's another sheikh called Shaykh Tarbiyah, the sheikh of experiential knowledge, what we typically refer to as a spiritual guide. He says, as for the first, Shaykh Ta'lim, every single Muslim requires that every person who embarks upon the serious studies of Islam, at least at the beginning stages, requires a qualified teacher who knows the basics of Islam. It will be learned things about our aqidah, our fiqh, among other things. As for the second type of sheikh, he said that we answer this question by reflecting upon the state of the person. That there are some people who are highly intelligent people, and there are people who have good control of themselves, of their anfus, their nafs. And these types of people, these individuals, if they were to hear the Quran recited, or hear a statement from the Prophet ﷺ, then that's all they require in order to do the right thing and to act in the right manner. So he said, these people, they don't need the sheikh or the second type of sheikh. But there are others who don't have good control over themselves. And they are not very educated about the world. He said, these people, on the other hand, they require to have a sheikh, murabbi, sheikh al-tarbiyah. But he said, but I also recommend it for the first type of person as well. The fundamental point of me raising this story is to highlight that Islamic education, as education was in other parts of the world at the time, was largely about trying to form human beings into certain types of people. It's always about trying to make you a better person, but it addressed both the physical or material and the immaterial aspect of the human being. Because the human being is a psychosomatic being, that we are flesh and spirit. We are both. We're both of them, right? And both the material aspects of our being, the things that relate to the objective world, have to be educated. But we also have to do things in order to form ourselves into better people, to fulfill the ultimate goal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, placing the human being on this planet, which is to serve and worship Him and to be His Khalifa on this earth. That is to say that Islamic education, it deals with both the exponential and the experiential. It deals with the material and the immaterial, the physical and the spiritual. And Islamic or proper education, it addresses both physics and metaphysics. Unfortunately, today, we live in a world where only the material aspect of our education is a major point of concern. And for that particular reason, I would say, or venture to say, that it's because of this that there's the tendency to lie the blame, or to say that the problems that we have ultimately originate from material causes. And the solutions to those problems only have material solutions. So of course, many of us have come to this part of the world, or many of us have taken part in the American educational system in order to earn a good living. There's material goal, which is not a problem per se. It's not a problem per se. But there are also elements in society, very powerful elements in society, who want to simply reduce all of the problems in the world to economic causes or political causes. So if the causes are economic, then the only choices we have are between capitalism and Marxism. That's it, because it's all about economics. So if capitalism is causing all of the problems in the world, then we have to try to bring in a new system which addresses, or at least pays more attention to a larger number of the population, which we call socialism or Marxism. But I would say, well, maybe it's not capitalism that is causing all the problems. Maybe what is causing most of those problems, the very fact is that we have completely negated or removed the metaphysical from our frame of reference. What about the very fact that atheism exists? What role does atheism play in the suffering of people in the world? What role does nihilism play in the role in the suffering of the people of the world? These people, there's no objective standard for morality. What about hedonism, where people are just pursuing their lusts, where greed itself has led to a lot of the imbalances, economic imbalances even to the extent that people don't even want to be charitable anymore? What about those particular aspects of education? But it seems that too many people are seeking to gain a sense of glory through other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He says, وَمَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْعِزَّةَ فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. That whoever wants glory, then Allah, all glory is with God. All glory is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. To Allah, or with Allah, to Allah and His Messenger and the believers is where you will find glory. وَلَكِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But the hypocrites, they don't know this. The hypocrites, they are unaware of this. This is what glory, where it comes. That's the place that we will find our sense of dignity, our sense of glory is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we all know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيدَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. Seeking knowledge is a right or a compulsory act or a duty upon every Muslim. Islam is probably the only religion that makes seeking knowledge a compulsory act. And of course, the first and the most important of those knowledges is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of His Messenger, the knowledge of His Quran, and other aspects of the Deen. Because this is what the Prophet ﷺ came with. He didn't come with engineering and other aspects, other things, but he didn't de-emphasize them either. Right? But there is a hierarchy when it comes to sciences. That everything that we do, that we have to always look to find the connection between what we do and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How does Allah fit in what I do? How does Allah fit into medicine? How does Allah fit into science? How does Allah fit into law? How does Allah fit into all of these different things? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've been sent for no other reason than to perfect virtuous characteristics. He also said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمْ يَبْعَثْنِي مُعَنِّتًا وَلَا مُتَعَنِّتًا. Allah did not send me as one to bring distress upon people, nor one to make people slip. وَلَكِنْ بَعَثْنِي مُعَلِّمًا وَمُيَسِّرًا. Rather, He sent me as a teacher and a facilitator, meaning one to bring ease to the lives of people. Allah, He tells us, فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And remind, because the reminder, it benefits the believers. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I created the jinn and men for no other reason than to serve me. The Quran is called a dhikr, the reminder. But the Prophet ﷺ is also referred to in the Quran as the dhikr. But what we need to keep in mind and not to be confused about, or we need to push back against this notion that the Quran is nothing but a book of law. No, the Quran is actually not a book of law. The Quran is actually a book of morals, a book of moral teachings. And the ulama, they say that in the Quran that only about between 300 and 500 verses actually pertain to law, out of over 6,000. And really, when you look at it, it's only about 12% of the book pertains to prescriptions, the things you should do and things you should not do. But the Quran is largely a book of morals. And Islam itself didn't spread. It didn't spread by people publishing a bunch of Qurans. It didn't spread by Muslims creating this very perfect video that shows the non-Muslims how beautiful Islam is. That Islam spread by the interactions that people had with other Muslims. That the places in the world today that we call the Muslim world, pretty much all these places, when Muslims first came into those places, they were minorities. And they ruled them as minorities. And it took centuries until these places became majority Muslim countries. But people saw something in Muslim character. They saw something that made them different from everyone else. Make them different from everyone else. And this is the reason why the standard for us has always been about morality. It's always been about our education is here to make us into better people. And so if we have a good spiritual education, what it does for us is that it teaches us what is good, but it also teaches us how to be good. And the ultimate goal is to make us good people. If we have a good material education, then our material education to teach us what is true and what is real and how do we arrive at truth. And if we're able to receive that good education, that good material education, then it will insulate us from manipulation. And I believe today we don't have good material education nor good spiritual education, largely, because too many people are being manipulated by the imagery from Hollywood or from the media, among other places, from politicians, from corporations, easily manipulated. We're tricked into believing something to be real, which is not, something to be true, which is not, over and over and over, because we haven't been trained to ask the right questions. How do I know that this is real? How do I know that this is true? How do I know that this happened? You say that it happened, but how did you find out about it? Were you an eyewitness, or is this second or third hand information? And then even your witnesses, are they reliable? Are they liars, or among other things? That this is what a good material education can do for us. At any rate, it is important to remember that Islam emphasizes both spiritual and material education. We should not sacrifice the spiritual nor the material. If we sacrifice the material, then we won't be able to know when we're being lied to. We won't know when we've been manipulated. If we sacrifice the spiritual education, then we won't be able to be those exemplars that we're expected to be, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told us that we're expected to be. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the best education of both worlds. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In closing, I just want to remind us as well of the importance of preserving this knowledge, preserving this education, and extending it to our children. That when we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions a conversation that He has with the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And He says to Ibrahim, Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. I am going to make you an exemplar to humanity. I'm going to make you a leader for humanity. Now Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, he didn't just say, wow, that's wonderful. But he was concerned about the future. And what did he say thereafter? وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. What about my children? Are you going to do the same thing for them? Are you also going to make them exemplars? And so Allah responded, لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. That my pact, my covenant does not apply to the wrongdoers. That is to say, yes, among your children there will also be exemplars, but they're also going to be the opposite. They're also going to be the opposite. But the whole point is that Ibrahim a.s. he was concerned about his children. He was concerned about the future, concerned about his progeny. Luqman al-Hakim is mentioned in the Quran, and he's speaking to his son. And the very first word of advice that he gives to his son is that, Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. Oh, my son, do not associate partners with God. Inna shirka la dhulmun azim, because idolatry, association of partners, is a great injustice. To who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yaqub alayhi salam, when he's on his deathbed, he speaks to his sons, he gathers them, and he asks them, Ma ta'buduna min ba'di? What are you going to worship and serve after I'm gone? قالوا نعبد إلهك وإله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق إله واحدا. That we're going to serve and worship your God and the God of your fathers, Ibrahim, Isaac, and Ishmael. Ilaha wahida, Ismail and Isaac, a single God. This is who we're going to worship and we're going to serve. That is to say it again, we find this all throughout the Quran and many different examples of this, many different things I can quote to show you that this was a major concern of the Anbiya, of the prophets, that we pass this legacy on to our children. And we have to make sure that we have clarity about what is moral. We have clarity about what is true, what is right, and what is real. We have to have clarity about those things and then pass it on, because at the rate that we're going now, unfortunately, many Muslims nationally are confusing the children, confusing the youth about what Islam is. Islam is not a culture, it's not a race, right? And Islam doesn't just put up for anything and any type of morality. It doesn't advocate for non-Islamic morality, among other things. So it's a confusion. We have to get clarity if we hope to have Islam remain among our progeny. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protect us and make it so that this Islam remains among our progeny, and that He insulate our children from the challenges that will face them in the future and in the present. Inshallah. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا اجعلنا مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتنا ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب ربنا وأنزلنا منزلا مباركا وأنت خير المنزلين مع الذين أنعمت عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أقم الصلاة.